This is the Highly Sensitive Club, episode number 77. Have you been told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much? Do you have big feelings and deep thoughts you don't always know what to do with? I'm Linn, a certified life coach and highly sensitive person. I've helped dozens of highly sensitive clients feel more energized, more confident, and more in control of their high sensitivity. In these episodes, you'll get the information and inspiration to level up your life as a highly sensitive person too. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Club. Hello, highly sensitive person, and welcome to this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. This topic has come up a lot in my coaching sessions lately. It's come up a lot with my mentees, and it is something that I have recently figured out the nuance on. So I had to tell you about this topic because I know that this is going to help you break out of some blocks and start moving forward again when you notice that you're stuck. There are lots of different reasons for why we get stuck in patterns, why we get stalled in our progress. This is just one of them. As humans, we are prone to lots of different blocks. We are prone to lots of different ways that we keep ourselves stuck, we keep ourselves stalled. This is just one of many blocks that we highly sensitive people tend to get into. Today's topic is exploration versus focus. I want to define these first, and then we're going to talk about when they don't work and when they do work. Exploration, on one hand, is when you're gathering information. You're open to whatever comes your way. You're tapping into or you're looking for your intuition to help you make these decisions. You're experimenting with things. For most highly sensitive people, we take in a lot more input than the average person, whether that's external input from our environments or whether it's internal input from our thoughts, our memories, our emotions, and the things that we process internally. Most highly sensitive people are also growth-oriented. We are lifelong learners who love to learn new things. We are on a constant journey of self-discovery, self-reflection, self-awareness, and we love to learn new things about new topics as well. Many highly sensitive people also identify as multi-passionates. So we love learning new things. We love gathering new skills. We love collecting data and information to chew on so that we can turn it into new solutions and new ideas. New ideas, new content, new information sparks creativity in us, and it allows us to expand our horizons, to try new things, to change our perspective, and to connect with other people in new ways. Exploration can be a beautiful thing when we're not using it against ourselves. On the other side of the spectrum is focus. This is when you are working on one thing, maybe two things at most, at a time. You are concentrating on a particular project or habit or thought process or transformation so that you can put all of your energy into it, which helps you progress faster. It helps you be more efficient with your energy and your effort, which are very valuable resources for highly sensitive people. It helps you make decisions more easily and bring in your time so that it doesn't feel like it's all over the place. Both exploration and focus are necessary for growth and for making progress in our lives towards our goals, our visions, and our dreams. However, they both have dark sides. They can both create instances where they actually keep you stuck or they keep you stalled. It may also create a different perspective on something that you've experienced before that you didn't have a good name to. Let's talk about exploration when it's not working for you and keeping you stalled. When you're exploring too much, this is when you are procrastinating, researching, and otherwise avoiding or distracting yourself from moving forward on your goals. This is when you tell yourself things like, I need to take another course before I'm ready to move forward. I need to learn more. I need to read more. I need to listen to another podcast episode. I need to follow so-and-so mentor in order to move forward. These are all thoughts that you need to gather and hoard more information that you don't know enough already, that you need to learn more, that you are still a student, that you have to master something or have all of the possible information in order to move forward. The fallacy with this type of thinking is that we often think if we prepare enough, if we gather enough information and we come up with the perfect solution or the right solution or the optimal solution, we can avoid all of the pitfalls that come from trial and error. Unfortunately, this is a trial and error thought. I imagine when you are thinking, I need to learn more in order to take my first step, I need to complete that course, I need to learn this entire process, I need to get certified in order to move forward, you are probably stuck where you are. You're not moving forward towards your goals. You're not making progress. You might be learning, you might be consuming information, but you're not applying it and you're not implementing it. This is when you can tell that it's not working for you because you're taking in a lot of information, but you're not metabolizing it and integrating it so that you can turn it into something useful for you to use in your life or for other people. If it's just a one-way street where you're taking it in and you're not creating anything, this is when when you're using it against yourself. And this comes from fear. This comes from thoughts that you aren't good enough with what you have, that you don't know enough yet, that you need to have mastered something before you can move forward, which I think is funny. I've definitely had that thought as well, but you can't master something without going out and experiencing it. You don't know what it's going to be like to become a master until you've actually applied and done the thing. Our brains want to keep us safe. They want to make us comfortable. Highly sensitive people tend to have very high standards and expectations of ourselves, of others, or how the world should work. We can use that against ourselves sometimes because we're telling ourselves that we have to come up with the perfect solution in order to become the masters we want to become simply by learning information and being good students rather than using that information and applying it in our lives. You can tell that you're staying in exploration too long when you're looking for another course instead of looking for your next action. You're looking for information from other people. You're crowdsourcing decision making instead of trusting your gut and just going for something, knowing that you might make a mistake, but that you can figure it out on the other side. You're always looking for the next new piece of information. You're looking for the next piece that someone hasn't told you before. You're looking for a different angle on the same perspective. In other words, you're looking for lots of other people to fill in what you need rather than looking inside of you and pulling out an answer that you can then use and apply. This is the dark side of exploration. You stay too long in the information gathering stage and you don't decide on something so that you can move forward. It feels very safe and very comfortable to continue to learn and continue to be a student of someone else's creative endeavors. It's a lot harder and more uncomfortable to go and apply it to yourself, to go and create something, to go and offer something in your relationships, or to create a new hobby or a new habit. But even though it's hard and even though it's uncomfortable, what we really want is to feel powerful. We want to feel strong. We want to feel resilient. And it's hard to feel resilient when you're constantly sitting behind your desk watching courses over and over. I don't say this because I don't think you should take courses or I don't think you should learn. That's not at all what I'm saying because I am a very big learner. I love having that influx of new ideas for inspiration. But when you're using it against yourself to keep yourself stuck, that's when exploration goes to the dark side and you've crossed the threshold into when it's not helpful for you. On the other side of the spectrum is when you get so hyper-focused on one particular thing that you end up ignoring all of your other options and you double down on something where you've already gotten enough returns. This is when you've found the course, you've found the teacher, you've decided on the project, you've decided on your new habit, and you go full force on that thing, but you decide that it has to be perfect. You create this pass-fail scenario for yourself where you either do it perfectly every single time or nothing else counts. It's a good thing to make a decision. It's a good thing to pick one thing to focus on at a time Because as a highly sensitive person who can go very deep, who is creating a lot of meaning in your life, this is a superpower that you have. You can focus for long periods of time on something that is really important to you. If you have an overlap with ADHD, you have the benefit of your brain giving you hyperfocus as well. You can really zero in on something and put your whole effort and your whole energy into it. But when you start trying to squeeze all of the juice out of one thing and you keep recycling it over and over again, this is when it becomes a problem. This is when you're taking the same course over and over again and you're starting fresh. Instead of finishing the course or finishing the book or finishing the podcast, you keep going back trying to take better notes. You keep going back trying to create the perfect resource for yourself because it's more about hoarding the information than it is, again, about applying. In both of these instances, over exploration or over focusing, you're tipping over the threshold and out of balance, not applying it. Another way that focus can get in your way and stall you is if you are so focused on taking actions, you're not slowing down to do the deep reflection to see whether your actions are working or not. I have definitely been guilty of this one and have been actively working on it lately, but this is also something that I find with every single one of my clients. They tend to get stuck when they're very productivity focused. They want to be efficient. They love to go out and take action because it feels good to them to stay busy, but they don't notice that they're constantly putting out fires. They don't notice that they're repeating the same patterns over and over again, telling themselves, I'll fix that next time. I'll take care of it now, and then I'll do better the next time this comes up. Except that when the next time comes up, they're still the same person. They're still going to make the same decisions they made because they didn't slow down long enough to see, did this actually work for me? And when this comes up in the future, what will I do differently because I know exactly what did and didn't work? When you hyper-focus on one particular course too long, you also stay with one teacher when you're actually ready to move on to the next one. You're grasping at the teacher, you're grasping at the resource, you're trying to hold on to something so tight because it's become comfortable for you. I think about the Pareto principle in this instance. 20% of your efforts yield 80% of your results, and 80% of your efforts yield 20% of your results. The idea behind this is that there is a very small percentage of the actions that you can take or the decisions that you can make and the priorities that you decide for yourself that really create the most amount of impact. The longer you push past that threshold, the more diminishing returns you have. I know it can be very tempting, especially when you love something, to try to squeeze 110% of the juice out of it before you move on to the next thing. And yeah, you might go back to the same resource again at another time with a different perspective. With more experience, you might go back to a course or a book or a teacher knowing more than you knew before. And so you become more open to exploring that avenue further. But where you get stuck is holding on to something because of fear, because of grasping, and because it feels familiar. It's the kind of discomfort that you know to expect rather than going out and trying new things and then seeing what happens from experience. Your brain is trying to create the least amount of effort and get the biggest result. This is great because our brains are trying to be efficient, and we like it when our brains are efficient. We don't like it when our brains are trying to override our goals by forcing us into autopilot or a habit that doesn't actually work for us. Now, here's when it's working. In exploration, the best time to explore is when you are open to new ideas. You don't have a decision yet, and you're trying to gather enough information to make a decision. This is the key time for exploration. This is when, for instance, you might be looking for a new life purpose. You might be going through a life transition in which you are changing jobs, you're retiring, maybe you're becoming an empty nester, or if you are a caregiver for grandchildren, maybe your grandchildren are going off to school and you don't have to watch them as much. Maybe you are moving from a corporate job into an entrepreneurial job. Maybe you're building friendships. Maybe you're building romantic relationships or exiting one relationship and looking for another one. Anytime you're in those transitional stages where it feels like you're in limbo, that's actually the best time to explore because you're hungry for new information and you're actually open to it. When you're set in your ways and you have very firm habits around your relationships or your health or your work, it can be difficult to open up your mind to different possibilities and different perspectives. Hence, when you're in focus too long. When you're in those liminal spaces, that's a great time to start trying different classes. It's a great time to go to the library and just browse books instead of placing holds on specific ones that you've heard about. That's a great opportunity to go meet new people. Maybe it's a great opportunity to reconnect with people that you already know, but you haven't seen in a while. You can ask for support. You can ask for connections. The people around you want to help you. We love to help each other, especially when you surround yourself with other highly sensitive people. The people who care about you and the people that you're connected with want to help you get what you want because you would do the same for them. In these transitional stages where you're starting to think about making a new decision, you're building new habits, you're trying to decide on a new project or a new hobby, these are the perfect times to go and learn more. This is when I give you full permission to go find new podcasts. This is when you can go grab new books. This is when you can open yourself up to new courses. This is the fun part of exploration and self-discovery and growth, that you get to go and try out new things. There's a great way to do this, and that is to remain completely open. Everything is an experiment. In fact, that might be a great thought for you to remember as you're going out and trying these new things, exploring new information, talking to new people, building new connections. I am here to explore. I am here to just gather information. I'm open to whatever comes to me. I trust my intuition to steer me in the right direction. I trust the synchronicities that are coming my way. This is when exploration is of highest benefit to you. This is where you can gather as much information as you want, and you'll know that it's working when you start to get inklings for things. You start to notice that your intuition is pointing you in certain directions, or you're hearing the same book titles over and over again. You're having the same conversations with people over and over again who do not know each other. This happens when I get a book recommendation from one podcast and from a different podcast with a completely different topic, they talk about the same book. Look for those little synchronicities and follow your intuition to explore what options are available to you. Here is when you switch though. The time to focus is when you know that it's time to make a jump. You've consumed so much information and you've gathered so much data that you know you are saturated. You don't have any more room for information unless you're really hiding from the action itself. You're just afraid to take a step and you don't want to move forward because you're afraid of what will happen when you do, whether that's success or whether that's failure. This is when you know it's time to switch into focus mode. Focus is when you decide on one, maybe two at the most, goals, projects, habits, hobbies, or transitions that you would like to make in your life. And this can be in any area, but the idea is to pick one thing at a time to put your focus and energy into. I would like to make X amount of extra money because I want to go on this trip. You put all of your efforts into gaining that money, setting it aside, and planning the trip with a specific date in mind so that you can make sure that you manifest the trip. You make it a reality. This could also be when you decide, I want to pursue a life purpose. I have a whole episode about how you can have multiple life purposes and multiple callings. You might be deciding on one particular purpose right now, in which case that's a great opportunity for you to focus and say, right now, this is what my spirit is calling for. This is what my mind is most curious about. This is the thing that makes my emotions light up that I am so excited to pursue. It doesn't mean that you have to commit to that forever. It doesn't mean that you aren't allowed to change your mind. In fact, there will come a time where the best thing for you is to release that. And you don't know whether that's going to be a month from now, a year from now, or 2 decades down the road, or even longer than that. You have to be willing to change your mind and let it go when the time comes. But the idea is not to hold yourself back or to think about the end before you've even started. The idea is to give yourself the relief and the freedom of making a decision and then letting the other ones go, maybe for now, maybe entirely, so that you can put all of your attention and energy into one thing. Energy, effort, and attention are huge resources for highly sensitive people because our batteries drain faster. We use more energy during the course of the day than the average person does. After you've explored enough and you are saturated, I've also heard this as a boiling over, like you've been simmering for a while and you're finally getting to a boil. This is when you switch into focus mode. This is when you make those decisions. When you're in focus mode, you concentrate on one step at a time. You are not looking at the big picture and getting overwhelmed. In fact, you might be holding your goal or your vision very gently and very loosely. When you get attached to something is when focus goes into its shadow mode. This is when you get stuck or you get stalled because you want something right now and you're very attached to how quickly you get it and how you get it. When you focus one step at a time and you just keep your vision loosely as your North Star in the distance, that is when focus is to your highest benefit. You can let go of distractions. You can let go of things that are helping you avoid the hard stuff. And you can actually go to the depth that you want to go to. Even though doing difficult challenges is not a pleasant experience, it's a satisfying one. It's one that feels fulfilling. It creates meaning for us. It gives us direction. It gives us something to vent about and have drama around when we need to throw a little temper tantrum and feel our emotions. Then we feel them, we move on, and we keep going towards the goal. That is when you concentrate on one specific thing. For my high sensitivity and ADHD clients, the best thing that works for them is to have 2 goals, usually one personal focused and one occupation focused. Occupation does not have to be a job or a business, but it could be something that occupies your time where you give back. Maybe you're a caregiver. Maybe you have a particular project or a hobby or side gig that you want to focus on. A personal project might be organizing your photos, cleaning up your environment so that it feels good in your space, planning a trip to a specific destination. An occupational goal might be creating a certain number of items. It might mean building a habit of dancing 3 times a week, or going to a CrossFit class 3 times a week, or going to bar class 3 times a week. Building in those systems so that you can focus on the particular goal you're working towards. In relationships, focus might mean that you are looking for opportunities to connect with new people, or you want to go back and reconnect with friends you haven't connected with in a while. Maybe this means you want to date and you hop on the apps or you go to dating events. Whatever this looks like for you, the focus is on that particular area with one particular goal and being open to exploring every step of the way. You're not in a hurry to get 5 steps ahead. You're not getting caught up in the pace and things not occurring as fast as you want them to. You're staying present in the moment and you're keeping your goal loosely ahead of you in a very gentle way. With clients, this has been showing up in a number of ways. I have one client who is interested in growing her business and wants to explore networking opportunities. She wants to meet more people. She wants to connect with her potential clients, and she wants to get out there. She's in the exploration stage. Another client is in a focus stage, which I love so much because she has really tapped into her inner resources. While everyone else around her is running around like a chicken with their head cut off, feeling very fearful, very scarce, and very urgent, she is taking her time. She's focusing on the things that are important to her, and she's creating a schedule and a calendar that fits her pace and what she wants for her life. She's not letting a goal dictate what she does. She's letting her life dictate how she runs her business. This is so crucial, and it's such a great leadership skill. I'm really proud of her. A lot of my clients have themes. The theme might be trusting myself. The theme might be confidence that I have something to offer. The theme might be feeling enough inside and sufficient outside. Whatever the theme is, this is what we focus on. It is effective at times to coach on different topics from week to week because you're in a mode where you notice that a theme is coming up in lots of different areas. So we're exploring. We're seeing how thoughts and rules are appearing in their lives. And we also keep these themes in mind so that we can focus on one topic. The client feels great about the results they're getting on the other side, and then they can move on to the next one when they feel capable and they feel proficient. I love it when my clients go from a 2 or a 3 in one of these categories, and after 5 or 6 sessions, they're suddenly at a 7 or an 8 or a 9. This is so satisfying for me, and it's exactly why I do what I do. Whether my client is in an exploration phase or they're in a focus phase, either way, I love supporting them coming from an integrated place, coming from a place of centeredness, groundedness, and integrity, that they know exactly which stage they need to be in this moment to get what they need and to move forward. They're not staying stuck in exploration or staying stuck in focus because they're afraid to step outside of their comfort zone. They're using them to their benefit in order to make progress and to grow. For myself, this came up recently because I am obsessed with Stacey Bayman. I love her 2K for 2K program, and I just recently joined her 200K mastermind. And I was thinking about a difference between the two programs, which lit the light bulb for this particular topic. In 2K for 2K, you're focusing on getting your very first clients. You're focusing on consistency, and you're focusing on finding your people so that you can help them. In that particular course, the goal is to explore. The goal is to come up with as many different ideas of ways that you can go out and help people as you can think of, and then to go and try those things. It can feel like throwing spaghetti at the wall, but the point is to try different things because you don't know what's going to work until after you've already done it. That's the annoying thing, highly sensitive person, and this is the gold for today. You think you can get the gold before you do the thing, and you won't know what works until after you've already done it. You won't know what doesn't work until after you've already made the mistake. It's picking yourself up and learning from those experiences afterwards that actually helps you move towards mastery. So it makes sense when you're in the beginning stages of learning something, you are exploring. You are taking in lots of information from lots of different sources, and you're also probably creating a lot of different things, a lot of which won't work, but some of which will. The cost of finding the things that do work is the things that don't work. It's all part of the exploration process. If you're willing to pay the cost of the things that don't work, you get to have the satisfaction of the things that do. There's a big difference between the satisfaction you have from overcoming a challenge versus having something handed to you. They are completely different feelings of satisfaction. The one helps you change who you are as a person, and the other helps you enjoy something and experience pleasure in a moment, but then you're looking for the next hit. When you overcome a challenge, the satisfaction that you feel is in becoming a new version of yourself. Once you've crossed that hurdle, you know how to cross it again. You've gained a new skill. You've become a different version of yourself. That's why once you explore and do that trial and error, in the beginning, it's so powerful. Once you start to figure out what's working, that's when you switch into focus mode. That's what we are doing in 200K, and it's the exact opposite situation. Instead of trying a bunch of different things, you focus on one, maybe 2 or 3 things. The idea is to pull in. It's to concentrate. It's to focus on what's working and then to repeat that process until you become so proficient at it that it's just a habit. You know how to do it automatically, and you are that person, whether you're consciously trying to do it or you're unconsciously proficient at it already. You focus in once you're past the initial stages and once you've done some of the experimentation to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. That's the worst part about getting stuck in exploration. When you start crowdsourcing your answers, you're going to get conflicting information. You ask one person how they do it and they'll give you one answer. You go to the next person and they give you the complete opposite answer. It can be so confusing and so frustrating, which is why after the exploration phase, you decide what you want to focus on through your own exploration, through your own experimentation, through your own trial and error. You figure out what works for you. I can give you a great example in business because I'm friends with a lot of fellow coaches. When we talk to each other, we talk about what works to help our clients or what works to grow our businesses. For me, personal connection has been the number one way that I build my business. I want to have a conversation with you. I want to talk about what's getting in your way. I want to pull out your strengths and your values and reflect them back to you and give you so much belief that you can't help but believe in yourself. This is what I do with every single person who becomes a client. They're just so enraptured with the idea of who they could be on the other side that they can't wait to work with me. And then we have just so much joy working together. It's a blast. For other coaches that I'm friends with, social media is their thing. And for me in this season, social media is not the thing that works for me. I tried it consistently every weekday, 5 days a week for 6 months and didn't get a single client out of it. I had a lot of colleagues saying, "Oh, that's so cool for you." I didn't get any business from social media. So I decided to refocus my efforts into what was working. This podcast, my emails to the people who want that exclusive information in their inbox every week, and to those one-on-one connections that I make with my network, with friends, or that I get through word of mouth and referrals. I didn't know that networking would be my main source of working with people until I already did it. I had to try social media. I had to try workshops. I had to try webinars. I had to try challenges. On the other side of making connections with people was how I figured out what was working for me. Then I focus on that. I focus on making connections. I focus on giving you so much value and so much gold from these podcasts, from my emails, from every conversation that I have with someone that they can't wait to work with me. That is what focus looks like. When you constrain yourself to one thing and you don't do it out of a sense of restriction, you're not limiting yourself to punish yourself or to be strict. You're limiting yourself so that you have full access to the majority of your energy, your effort, and your attention. It's a gift that you give yourself to be able to focus on one thing and to make that decision so that all of the mind drama, the analysis paralysis, the decision fatigue just melts away. When you make the decision and you move towards it, that's when you have so much freedom and so much relief. You suddenly get to be that person who says, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know what the next step is. I know what my purpose is right now. I know what I want to be doing. That is the most satisfying feeling of all. When you can trust yourself, you know what your next step is, you know how to do it. And even if you don't know what's going to work yet, you have ideas. You allow yourself to be creative. You allow yourself to be flexible. You allow yourself to make mistakes, try it on, and see what works. That is the benefit of both focus and exploration. You're trying things every step of the way and you're seeing what works. In exploration, you're trying lots of different things, staying on the surface and sampling. It's like you're taking little bites from a buffet to see what tastes good and what you never want to try again. When you're focusing, that trial and error comes from focusing on one step at a time. This is the same thing I was talking about in my episode about how to turn big dreams into small steps. Every step ahead of you is how you maintain that trial and error experimentation, but you're doing it in a particular direction. You're doing it to make progress. You're doing it towards a goal, not to gather information. Your recap for today. Exploration keeps you stuck when you are trying to stay in your comfort zone. You're more interested in consuming information and hoarding it for future than you are in actually integrating and applying it. You are stuck on the focus side when you're trying to squeeze the juice out of one thing over and over again, even when your body, your mind, and your emotions and your spirit are telling you it's time to move on to the next thing. You may also be focusing too hard when you haven't determined what your end goal is. If you keep moving the goalposts on yourself, it's going to be really hard to allow yourself to explore because you feel like you haven't gotten the value out of whatever you're hyper-focusing on. When you decide what the end goal is, when you decide what enough is, That's when you can direct your focus in the right direction. The best time to explore, the best time to take in those new courses, to read those new books, to try new podcasts is when you're in transitional moments. That could be the end of something, looking into starting something new, or this could be when you're feeling like there's stagnant energy and you're looking for a fresh influx of inspiration. That is when it's time to take classes. It's time to go out into your city and find things to do. It's time to reconnect with people that you haven't connected with in a while, or to meet new people. That's when it's time for you to gather information so that you can listen to your intuition. You're looking for those synchronicities. You're looking for those messages that, yes, this is the thing. This is what I'm really excited about right now, and this is what I'm going to put my energy into. That is when you are ready to switch into focus mode. You want to stop exploring at that point. You want to stop gathering information because it's going to be conflicting, it's going to be confusing, and it's going to be contradictory, and that will keep you stalled, guaranteed. If you are trying to do two things that appear to be mutually exclusive at the same time, this is when your brain goes, nope, I'm out. And it goes and watches some Netflix. When you let go of the exploration, when you're in focus mode, you're ready to put all of your time, energy, effort, and attention into one, maybe two things so that you can supercharge your efforts. It's the most efficient way for you to move forward, and you know exactly what your end goal is so that you know when you've reached it. You know when you've done enough. You know when it's time for you to stop focusing on that one thing and you get to explore again. The thing about both of these two ends of the spectrum, exploration and focus, is that there comes a time where you're ready to switch into the opposite. You have explored enough and you're ready to focus on one thing at a time. You've focused enough and you're ready to explore and gather new information and grow again. While they both have different purposes, there are seasons for both of them, and there are also costs to both of them too. If you find that you're in the stalled mode on either one of these things, it's time to start focusing on the other. You either decide what complete is for the thing that you're focusing on, or you decide how much information you need to do the exploration in order to make the decision. On the other side of exploration and focus is the satisfaction that you want by overcoming a challenge, by expanding your mind, by changing who you are being and what you are doing in the world. Because that is really what all of this is about. You're not exploring for the sake of exploring just to gather information and consume it like entertainment. You're exploring because you want to grow. You want to learn something. You want to help yourself, or you want to help someone else. When you focus, you want to reach your goal. You want to complete something. You want to make progress and to prove to yourself that you can do difficult things and overcome those challenges and become the strong, resilient, powerful person that you want to be, that you envision for yourself. Both of these ends of the spectrum have their purposes. If you notice that you're out of alignment and you're feeling like you're stalling, or you're afraid, or you're stuck, or you're frustrated, or you're in resistance, it's time to switch to the other one. When you switch, you notice a huge influx of new energy, you have better attention, and your efforts go further. This is the juice that we're looking for. If you find that you are stuck in exploration, it's time to make a decision and focus. If you find that you're trying to squeeze the juice out of something, or you keep moving the goalposts, it's time to decide what complete is and move out of focus and into exploration again. We need both of these things in our lives in order to have a well-rounded human experience. So don't stall yourself too long. There is so much more available out there for you, and it's time for you to make progress towards your goals and your vision. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to Linn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.